Well, Sydney-siders are on alert after cancer-linked chemicals were discovered in the city's water supply. The chemicals used in products like firefighting foam have been linked to serious health risks, including cancer. For more, let's bring in Jeff Zipper, a former firefighter whose life was dramatically impacted by PFAS exposure, and Dr Nicholas Chartres, a researcher from the University of Sydney. Thank you both for your time. Jeff, I want to start with you. When did you first discover the connection between your cancer diagnosis and the PFAS exposure you've had?
It was probably the late 90s, early 2000s. I live about 30 kilometres from the Williamtown Air Force Base, and they started to get problems with groundwater contamination from firefighting foam. So that's when I first became aware that there was a problem down there.
It's just so awful what we hear about this firefighting foam, right? And just how many of you have been adversely impacted by this. It's a tragedy. It's just an awful thing that we should never have allowed to happen. I mean, you've even compared PFAS to asbestos. Exactly
right. When I joined the job, I joined in 1970. Asbestos was a safe product. So now this PFAS has become exactly the same as asbestos. Asbestos now is a Class 1 dangerous goods, and over the years there's been more news reports about the effects of PFAS, but the government keeps saying that there's not enough information. They can't say exactly that it's linked to cancer. But let me say that I worked at a fire station with my three friends and other people. All three of us came down with bladder cancer.
I mean, that's the proof, isn't it, Nick? I want to bring you in now because these are the things that we don't know then that we do know now. And that's the issue, isn't it? We're playing catch-up at the moment.
We are. So back in the 1950s and 60s, when these chemicals were first made by 3M and DuPont, they suppressed the data on the harms of the chemicals. So they were doing internal studies and they knew that they were harmful to human health. It wasn't until the early 2000s that we actually got access to that data. So for the last 10 to 15 years, we've been playing catch-up, and we now have streams of evidence to show that these chemicals are carcinogens. Authoritative bodies like the WHO and also the US Environmental Protection Agency have established that. There's other neurodevelopmental effects, cardiovascular disease effects, and so the evidence is well established now.
A lot of people at home hearing you say that will be quite alarmed now. We obviously don't want to terrify everyone because you're talking about drinking water here, something that we all consume every day.
Yes. They're very low levels at the moment in our drinking water, but they're higher than what the US EPA is saying that's safe. Essentially, there's no safe level. So if we're exposed to them, our risk goes up incrementally. The more we get exposed, the more risk there is. We need to ban these chemicals as a family of chemicals. There's 15,000 variants, and unless they're demonstrated to be essential for society to function, so something like a medical device, there's no reason we should be using these chemicals because, one, we know they're harmful, and the ones that we don't have data on, we should be banning because they could be harmful.
But should we stop drinking tap water?
We should have our water tested and filtered by the government, and that cost should be passed on to the polluting industry. We as an individual should not be responsible for taking care of our water quality. This is a fundamental human right, and to get a water filter is incredibly expensive, and a lot of families can't afford a $1,000 water filter to filter out these contaminants.
All right, Nick, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Alex.
Pretty scary stuff there. Thanks, Sarah.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.